I'm in southern Morocco on the northern edge of the Sahara Desert, and behind me is one of the largest oases in North Africa. And in the harsh conditions of a desert, of course, an oasis is a place of life. It's a place where there are trees, where there's running water, a place of shade and rest and resources. And this oasis behind me has thousands of date palms and olive trees. And when you think about the spread of Islam across North Africa, from the Arabian Peninsula, and then across the Sahara Desert down into West Africa, oases play an important role in that spread. As Arab traders who knew the conditions and knew how to navigate a desert that they came across in their caravans with their camels, they would reach places of oasis and they could stay there. There was a dwelling place for them. They could be resupplied, replenished. But oases also shaped and reflect the Muslim imagination, the Muslim worldview. And so when you talk about Islam, you're talking about a story that starts in a garden, the Garden of Eden. And the Garden of Eden is mostly understood and imagined not as a place on earth, but as a heavenly place. But when Adam and Eve sinned, they were cast out of the garden, cast out of the heavenly oasis, and they were cast down onto earth. And the human experience is imagined as a kind of desert experience. The world is a world of struggle, of scarcity, of testing. Oasis then becomes a metaphor for God's mercy, a place of God's provision, a place of blessing. It's a piece of heaven, a piece of the Garden of Eden. And that plays itself out in a number of different ways in the Muslim worldview. Even when you talk about family life from a Muslim point of view, you can talk about a house. In this part of the world, a house would be referred to as a riad. And a riad is a house that often has an interior courtyard with fountains and with trees, with palm trees and pools of water. And so a riad, a place where your family lives, is understood as a kind of oasis for the family, an oasis for the home. Or you hear a word like the Arabic word Sharia, which is often translated as Islamic law, but literally Sharia means a pathway, understood as a pathway that leads you toward water, toward oasis, a pathway that leads you from a desert experience toward an experience of nourishment. So that law is something seen as good and nourishing and life-giving. And then you also have Islamic understandings of the afterlife. And in the Quran, heaven and paradise is pictured and understood, imagined as a garden, a return back to a garden, a place of flowing water and green trees and date palms and rest. And so an oasis in the midst of a desert plays so many roles, historically and theologically and philosophically for Islam. It also offers a little bit of contrast with the Christian worldview. While there are a lot of similarities in Christianity, the Garden of Eden is understood as a place on earth, representing the good world that God created for people to live. And yet that good world, when Adam and Eve sinned, became corrupted and broken. And so Christian hope is not as much understood as going back to some heavenly garden, but it's understood as a redeeming or redemption of the world itself and a repairing of the world. And in the book of Revelation, you even have an understanding of heaven, not as a place that you go to, but heaven is something that comes down to earth and represents the redemption of the world. But it's also not just understood or imagined as a garden. In the Christian imagination, it's understood as a city. So it represents not only God's initial creation that was good, but the contributions of human culture as well. But the city, the New Jerusalem that comes down out of heaven to earth, is also pictured with flowing rivers and gardens and trees within it. And so you have this mixing of the metaphor of garden and city. And all of that shows both the similarities and the differences between Islam and Christianity. And all of that is coming to my mind as I stand here in front of this oasis.